We're not going to have a trade war, but we can't have a trade surrender either.
Karen.
Okay, Governor Huntsman, you were also ambassador to China, and you say that this would risk a trade war. But if China is indeed keeping its currency low, that means that everything they sell in this country is artificially cheap, and everything that our companies try to sell in China is artificially expensive. So what do you say to people who ask, aren't we already in a trade war with China?
Well, first of all, I don't subscribe to the Don Trump school or the Mitt Romney school of international trade. I don't want to find ourselves in a trade war. With respect to China, if you start slapping penalties on them based on countervailing duties, you're going to get the same thing in return, because what they're going to say, because of quantitative easing part 1 and part 2, you're doing a similar thing to your currency. And then you're going to find yourself in a trade war very, very quickly. And what does that do? That disadvantages our small businesses, it disadvantages our exporters, it disadvantages our agricultural producers. So I say, for the first and the second largest economies in the world, we have no choice. We have to find common ground. We have to, of course, use our trade laws and use them very, very aggressively. But at the end of the day, we've got to find more market opening measures. We've got to get more governors from this country together with governors from provinces of China, mayors together with mayors, and exploit the opportunities that exist for exporters. That's a job creator in this country. It's a huge job creator. And we have to get used to the fact that as far as the eye can see into the 21st century, it's going to be the United States and China on the world stage.
You know, Governor Romney, this issue does carry a lot of resonance, especially in states like New Hampshire, which, as you probably know, has lost a greater percentage of its manufacturing jobs to China than any other state. But voters have heard candidates talk tough on China before. George W. Bush did it, Barack Obama did it, only to see that once elected, the president takes a much more cautious approach because of the complexity of the relationship and the fact that this is our biggest creditor. Why should voters believe that you would be any different?
I'm afraid that people who've looked at this in the past have been played like a fiddle by the Chinese. And the Chinese are smiling all the way to the bank, taking our currency and taking our jobs and taking a lot of our future. And I'm not willing to let that happen. I'm in this race to try and get America to make sure we're strong again. We're creating jobs. We're the best place in the world to be middle class again. And for that to happen, we got to call cheating for what it is.
But it was only...
And you can't, you know, people say, well, we might have a trade war with China. Well, now think about that. We buy this much stuff from China. They buy that much stuff from us. You think they want to have a trade war? I mean, this is a time when we're being hollowed out by China that is artificially holding down their prices, as you just said a moment ago, and that's having a massive impact on jobs here. It is the wrong course for us. When people have pursued unfair trade practices, you have to have a president that will take action. And on day one, I've indicated day one I will issue an executive order identifying China as a currency manipulator. We'll bring an action against them in front of the WTO for manipulating their currency, and we will go after them. If you're not willing to stand up to China, you'll get run over by China, and that's what's happened for 20 years.
But as recently
let me go to Governor Perry and then Governor Huntsman. Governor Perry.
We're missing this so much. What we need to be focused on in this country today is not whether or not we're going to have this policy or that policy. What we need to be focused on is how we get America working again. That's where we need to be focused. And let me tell you, we're sitting on this absolute treasure trove of energy in this country. And I don't need 999. We don't need any plan to pass Congress. We need to get a president of the United States that is committed to passing the types of regulations, pulling the regulations back, freeing this country to go develop the energy industry that we have in this country. I can promise you that we do that, and we'll create an environment in this country where the manufacturing will come back to this country. We did it in Texas. We brought Chi manufacturing that had business in China back to the state of Texas. You free up this country's entrepreneurs where they know that they can risk their capital and have a chance to have a return on investment, and all of this conversation that we're having today becomes substantially less impactful.
All right, I want to come back to these issues, but let me introduce, speaking of CEOs and business, this is a New Hampshire native. His name is David Cody. He is chairman and CEO of Honeywell, and he is a former member of the Simpson-Bowles Commission. Here he is.
20 years ago, there were 1 billion people actively participating in the global economy. Today, there are more than 4 billion active participants in the global economy, with China, India, former CIS states, and other emerging economies now in the game. While that is a good and peaceful phenomenon, it also means we need to compete more strongly than we did in the past. We need an American competitiveness agenda. We need to inspire that American competitive spirit that has served us so well for over 200 years. I would like to ask, what would be on your American competitiveness agenda? And with one last small request, my guess is all of us are ready to accept that we're a great country and a great people. So if your response could focus on specifics, it would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Senator Santorum, we talked about jobs in Pennsylvania. A competitive agenda of yours would be what?
Well, I already put forward a plan. You know, Mitt, I don't want to go to a trade war. I want to beat China. I want to go to war with China and make America the most attractive place in the world to do business. And we need to do that with the agenda that I outlined, which, unlike Herman's plan, which could not pass, because how many people here are for a sales tax in New Hampshire? Raise your hand. There you go, Herman. That's how many votes you'll get in New Hampshire. Yeah. We're not going to give the federal government, Nancy Pelosi, a new pipeline, a 9% sales tax for consumers to get hammered by the federal government. How many people believe that we'll keep the income tax at 9%? Mm-hmm. Anybody? That's why people won't trust.
So if you keep mentioning 999 and Herman Cain, I'm going to have to go back to him every other question.
Thank you. Hold on. That's right. Charlie, whoa, I'm not done yet. Thank you. I'm not done yet. I've only been able to answer one question, unlike everybody else here. So let me just finish what I'm saying. Right. We need to repeal Obamacare. That's the first thing we need. You want to create jobs? I was in Ossipee yesterday, and I talked to a small businessman there, and he said, I will not hire anybody. I will not make a move until I find out what's going to happen with this health care bill and how it's going to crush me. And so repealing Obamacare, and we can do it. Not by waivers. That's the wrong idea, Mitt. The reason it's the wrong idea, because you could have waiver. California going to waive that? No. New York going to waive it? No. All these states, many of them, liberal states, are going to continue on, and then states like New Hampshire that will waive it will end up subsidizing California. We need to repeal it.
Yes, you did. But
we need to repeal
it. But their time.
I know. Well,
time. You see the red light. Time.
We need to repeal it.
All right.
By doing it through a reconciliation process, and since I have the experience and know how to do that, we'll take care of it.
I've got to go to the break, but I'm both going to give both Herman Cain and Governor Romney a chance to make their point, because they were both mentioned. First Cain, then Romney, then break.
Therein lies the difference between me, the non-politician, and all of the politicians. They want to pass what they think they can get passed rather than what we need, which is a bold solution. 999 is bold, and the American people want a bold solution, not just what's going to kick the can down the table.
Governor Romney.
Rick, you're absolutely right. On day one, granting a waiver from all 50 states doesn't stop at its tracks entirely Obamacare. That's why I also say we have to repeal Obamacare, and I will do that on day two with the reconciliation bill, because, as you know, it was passed by reconciliation, 51 votes. We can get rid of it with 51 votes. We have to get rid of Obamacare and return to the states the responsibility. No, not if you get rid of it. And particularly, by the way, the Supreme Court may get rid of it. Let me finish.
Okay, let him finish. Then we go to Huntsman. Then we go to the break. And then when we come back, each of you can question each other.
Hold on. That's the deal. And let me just say this, which is, we all agree about repeal and replace. And I'm proud of the fact that I put together a plan that says what I'm going to replace it with. And I think it's incumbent on everybody around this table to put together a plan that says this is what I'll replace it with, because the American people are not satisfied with the status quo. They want us to solve the problem of health care, to get it to work like a market, and that's what has to happen.
All right. Governor Huntsman, then we go.
It's disingenuous to just say that you can waive it all away. The mandate will be in place. The IRS is already planning on 19,500 new employees to administer that mandate. That will stay, and that's the ruinous part of Obamacare. And that, your plan is not going to do anything.
I said we're going to repeal it. Well, did you miss that?
No, it doesn't repeal the mandate.
No, I said I'm going to repeal it.
Wait, hold on.
Through reconciliation, you can repeal the taxes, you can repeal the spending, and therefore the mandate has no teeth because there's no tax penalty if you don't enforce it.
All right, we have much to talk about. When we come back, the candidates will ask questions of each other after this break. Welcome back. We're at the Republican presidential candidates debate. We're at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. And we're pleased now to turn it around a bit and have the candidates question each other. They will each have 30 seconds to pose an answer. We'll have 1 minute to respond, 30 seconds for a question, 1 minute to respond. They'll proceed in alphabetical order. I want you to remember, as we talk about this, we're talking about the economy, or those things that affect the economy. Beginning in alphabetical order, Congresswoman Bachmann.
Thank you. Well, in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan produced an economic miracle. And while all of us were wishing and yearning for a third term for Ronald Reagan, Governor Perry, you were campaigning and co-chairing Al Gore's election campaign for President of the United States. You went on to increase spending in Texas by over 50%, and you financed that spending by increasing bond debt by over 137%. That's exactly what Barack Obama has been doing, increasing debt by trillions of dollars. How can we trust you to not go down the Obama way and overspend and pay for that spending with indebtedness on the backs of the next generation?
Well, I, like most people in the state of Texas and in those southern states, grew up a Democrat. Michael Reagan and I were talking just the other day, Charlie, that I came to the Republican Party sooner in age than his dad, Ronald Reagan, did. And let me just address this issue of the debt in the state of Texas. Texas has the 6th lowest debt per capita. When I started as the governor back in 2000, and today, Texas has the 2nd lowest debt per capita in the United States. I think that's what America's looking for as a president of the United States that understands how to balance budgets, how to deal with the spending issue, and how to get Americans back working again.
Herman Cain, question.
Yes. One of my guiding principles has been and will always be surround yourself with good people. The 999 plan that I have proposed is simple, transparent, efficient, fair, and neutral. My question is to Governor Romney. Can you name all 59 points in your 160-page plan, and does it satisfy that criteria of being simple, transparent, efficient, fair, and neutral?
Herman, I've had the experience in my life of taking on some tough problems. And I must admit that simple answers are always very helpful, but oftentimes inadequate. And in my view, to get this economy going again, we're going to have to deal with more than just tax policy and just energy policy, even though both of those are part of my plan. And the other parts of my plan are these. One is to make sure that we stop the regulatory creep that's occurred in Washington. And all of the Obama regulations we say no to, we put a halt on them and reverse all of those that cost jobs. Number two, we have trade policies that open up new markets to American goods. And I lay out a number of things I do in that 59 points that open up more markets to American goods. And we, of course, stop the cheating that goes on. We also have to have the rule of law. By that I mean you can't have the federal government, through its friends at the National Labor Relations Board, saying to a company like Boeing that you can't build a factory in a non-union state. That's simply wrong and violates the principle of the rule of law. We also have to have institutions that create human capital. We're a capitalist system. But we don't just believe in physical capital or financial capital, also human capital. We need great schools, great institutions. Finally, you got to have a government that doesn't spend more money than it takes in. Those are the 7 major pillars of those 59.
So no, it's not simple, is what you're saying.
Let me tell you, to get this economy restructured fundamentally, to put America on a path to be the most competitive place in the world to create jobs, is going to take someone who knows how to do it. And it's not one or two things. It's a good number of things to get America started.
All right. Speaker Gingrich, question.